And welcome everybody to my to my Independence Report. This is a very unique show that we're going to be doing for you today. We were hoping that Coryelle Kramer would be with us, but she had to take care of, I don't know, life and stuff. So she won't be with us today. But we do have an alien or somebody that is going to open the show for us. Mr. Hall, take it away.
It is said that microbial life stepped from the oceans. Perhaps stepped is inaccurate, but more gently landed by a gentle wave. Eyes were not developed yet, but eyes are one of the first evolutionary steps. And it is not by accident that those eyes were looking up. And it is not by accident that we have phrased the word enlightened. And we understand the word is stepping into the light as understanding an idea. That the word that we have always struggled with an explanation of how we got here. See, we have gods and we have saviors. We have saints and we have entities. We have great creators. And we have animal spirits that land from the stars and deliver man to this planet via the great creator. We have as many stories to explain our existence as there have been cultures that have existed since we have stepped off those shores and grew our eyes. But we have a split identity when we try to identify where we are today in relation to where the stars are today. Because we do not feel alone. And we count the stars, and we know that we cannot possibly be alone. We scoff at the existence of aliens, but we do not scoff at the non-existence of aliens. Because that is only rational. If you add 2 and 2, you get 4. That is fundamental math. So if you add billions and billions of stars, you have multiples of opportunities for microbial life. And you have multiples of opportunities for those lives to have curiosity to reach out across the stars. And we have to ask, since we tell stories through stars and constellations, are we prepared to accept a story that arrives through those constellations and open our eyes? It would be like those new cells that stepped out onto the first ocean and tried to make sense of the light. And we have to admit, a lot of us still scoff at the thought of aliens. But that thought has always been with us.
Oh, I wasn't sure if we were full and complete or not.
Well, as full and complete as we get.
By the way, that was written by Eric Hall, and it's great to have you. Great to have you here.
It's great to be here, Kevin.
Also, our friend Coryelle got sidetracked by somebody that was at the house and wasn't going to leave, so they're doing some work there. So she's had to beg off at the last minute, and that's perfectly okay because we were planning on talking about this subject anyway, and I just thought that Coryelle would be a fun lady to have on because she has psychic gifts and she talks to people on the other side, and also
this is right up her alley.
It is right up her alley, and she's worked at it and done really well with it. So, and by the way, and so there you go. You have a fan, and she loves that.
Thank you, Paulette. Good to see you.
Yes, and Leslie too thought that was pretty nice.
Thank you, Leslie.
So, in any event, what we're going to talk about today is the fact. You mentioned something to me yesterday.
Yeah.
That then because I was having my COVID shot and was a little under the weather and hadn't been paying attention to the news, you told me something that tell me what you told me yesterday.
Well, they're always subtle about these things. We've all heard these rumors, pretty much through our lives, but they're being even more definite about contact and evidence because they're getting contact from aliens in the manner of radio signals. So not only are we getting, fuzzy camera clips from flying UFOs and swimming UFOs, but now there is confirmed radio signals that they're trying to make sense of from planets. In fact, there's one, and forgive me because I don't know why they named planets you can't pronounce, but with the billions of stars out there, I guess they have a difficult time naming them. And let's face it, X31 just isn't a great name.
No.
So this name is called Tau Buentes, something like that.
Okay.
And Cornell University has had their ears focused on the stars for quite a while, and came across this signal. And you've heard of the WOW signals, right?
Describe it for our audience.
Well, a WOW signal is something that they capture when they're listening through a radio telescope, and they'll listen to star sounds. And as you know, star sounds are generally pretty predictable, and it sounds like air, white noise.
Right.
But every once in a while something comes through. And the way they define a WOW signal is something that is repeated in a rhythmic pattern that can be mathematically explained.
So that it's not a random set of noises. It is mathematically explainable.
Exactly. Which puts it into the area that it must be intelligently processed and not from nature. Now, this is where it gets difficult, because much like, those microbial cells that made eyes, and we're trying to decipher the light and make sense of what is a predator, what is safe, what is night, what is day, what is dawn, what is dusk. We're also trying to decipher those things in the sense of what is communication from other worlds.
Right.
So there are instances where they've had WOW signals, where after 5-6 years of further research, that WOW signal has been explained in some way that can be explained through technology that was our own fault. In essence, it bounced off something and came from somewhere else, and that kind of thing. However, this is different, because this came from a planet, and they cannot explain it in any other way because there was nothing else out there. And it has come so clearly and repeated so definitely, there is no other explanation. However, and this is where they continue to be subtle, and this is why a person has to look at multiple sources to really get a handle on what they're, because as you know, our governments aren't going to confirm nor deny the existence of aliens, because there's quite a bit at stake. And I'm not the one that's going to be on the side of saying that they're doing this to stay in control of us. I'm not going to say that completely, but I will say that they are doing it somewhat in defense, because let's face it, much like many of us in this wonderful country want to build a wall to keep aliens out from taking our jobs, we cannot build a wall to keep aliens out of our space to take our jobs.
That's also true. But Eric, I want to take our audience back in the mists of time. There was a time in the 50s. Remember Area 51?
Yes.
And that was, of course, there was a great big hullabaloo because people thought that a spacecraft had landed in Area 51. I think it's Nevada. And it was, of course, blocked off, and you couldn't get there and so forth. And they, of course, poo-pooed it and said it's just a weather balloon and stuff. This is different. They're doing stuff now that is not they're not saying it's a weather balloon. They're saying it's a possibility that this is going on and that there are aliens that, and some of them have gone so far, as some of the research that I've done have gone so far as to say that there are aliens among us now. Hey, have you heard that one?
I have, every president from that I know of, FDR to the present, even our past president, the great Mr. Trump, has knowledge of aliens. And one of the things that Trump did not do, as he generously shared so many of our secrets with the public and many of our opponents, he did not share the existence of alien life, but it is reported that he knows about it. Reagan talked about alien life on the floor of what is that, WHO?
Okay, the World Health Organization,
or the World Health God,
some world organization.
Yeah, the World Organization, and I imagine Carter did as well. They always mention something kind of briefly and low key.
Yes,
kind of briefly and low key. Now, here's the problem, and this is where the information that we generally get about such things is from Hollywood. Our popular culture kind of opens our eyes to aliens through Hollywood, or these great movies, Independence Day and Alien, War of the Worlds, and Predator. These horrible, fear, scary stuff, which is terrific, man. I love those movies.
Yep, so do I. I've watched Independence Day probably a dozen times.
One of the great presidential speeches of all time.
It was.
I'll put it up there with the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, too bad it wasn't real, but it would have been nice.
It would have been nice.
But I wanted to ask you, because you brought this up yesterday, and then I got to thinking. It's like we had never seen before footage of a Air Force plane tracking something in the sky, and they didn't poo-poo it. They didn't say, "Oh, it's nothing." I was amazed that they actually let us see it, because it's pretty dynamic if you're looking at it, and it's how fast that thing could move and where it could go and stuff. That was pretty dynamic.
Isn't that something? I think we're getting close to that, because it's not only that one, but it's also, what was that, Arizona, that had the big old triangle, and wasn't it the governor of Arizona that also saw this and confirmed? So some what we call serious-minded people.
Yes, and if you talk to people like, and one of the reasons why, and again, Coryelle Kramer, who is the world famous psychic, and
yes,
I said that in all seriousness.
Yeah, it entered my mind when
and she has had communication with people that are alien and or star people, basically, and so forth. So we wanted to have her on to talk about that. But I think that even with the fact that she's not here, that we can start painting a picture of they're easing us into the belief that aliens exist and that they may show up at one point. That's my belief. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And there's, multiple theories about that. Star Trek famously covered, another possibility. One of my favorite shows of Star Trek 4, where they sent that probe and everyone panicked, and it turned out they were trying to contact whales. And it took Spock, another alien, to figure out, well, no, they're trying to contact whales. It's only human arrogance that we were the only ones that we thought we were the ones they were trying to contact. So it's possible, maybe like there was an article that NASA admits that tiny super intelligent aliens have already been here, and maybe they're in contact with ants, because what is there? I saw a figure once, there's like 1 million or 1 billion ants to every human on the planet?
Oh wow, I hadn't thought of that.
Oh, it's a scary thought, really, because if the ants want to take over the world, we can't stop ants. We can't. They would just eat us. Lions can't stop ants. What chance do we have?
Exactly. Except an anteater can stop ants. Which is good. Thank God we have those.
Yeah, thank God. Can we breed enough anteaters to save our asses?
But the other thing is that they're starting to talk about more and more is the fact that, as an example, do you know how much of the ocean has yet to be explored?
Oh, see, there you go.
About 90%.
About 90%.
We have not, because we like breathe air, and there isn't any of that down there, and it's very dark down there. If you can't, they haven't looked at the trenches very much. They haven't looked at a lot of places, but an alien, because of the spaceships that they operate, they, or star people, or whatever you choose to call them, they could very easily survive under the oceans.
Absolutely. They're probably smarter. What if there is aliens living on this planet? Well, or if there are other intelligences living on this planet, they're probably smarter than us because we haven't been able to detect them.
Right. And so because they are more advanced than we are, the question is, why are they here? And what will they add to our life, or what will happen when the day comes? Because I've heard many psychic people say that the star people are coming, whether they're the Palladians or the folks that Coryelle has talked to, or others, that they're coming. And why would they come here, and what would be their purpose? I've heard all kinds of rumors about of that. Remember the old Twilight Zone?
Which one?
The aliens came down and they had a book. And they finally were able to translate it, and it said "to serve man." And the last line of that show, as the guy's getting on the getting on the spacecraft to go to this other place that they said was wonderful, and it was, you'd have a great time and stuff. So he's just getting on there. His assistant comes running up to the plane and says, "It's a cookbook." To serve man is a cookbook. And so that's been where we have been taking it forever, is that they are angry and they're mean and they're powerful and they're going to kill us all. And that's why I believe that they're beginning to give us some inkling that could very well be real, so that if and when they do become proven, that it won't scare the shit out of everybody and we'll be okay.
I remember that episode because I spent years thinking about, what if they really did want to eat us? Would they want people that were muscle builders, or would they want people that lay around and eat Fritos while they watch TV? Well, and really get that goo that builds on our stomachs and under our arms and that stuff. Which would taste better?
Well,
but then we're talking about aliens. Which would they prefer?
Well, I can tell you this, that in the restaurant business that I worked in for a long time, fat equals flavor.
See?
So if you are going to be eaten by an alien, I suspect that they want you to be nice and pleasantly plump, with some muscle tone, but they want your thighs and stuff to be laced with a good marbling.
See, there's a good reason to stay in shape, because you can also run better to run away, and you won't taste as good.
Well, that's also true. But then what they do is, you see, it's just like a cow. There are parts of the cow that are tougher than others, so that's why you use. I got to tell you a funny story real quick, but that's why you use like chuck steak and stuff. You put that into a pot and you boil it until it's completely done, and stuff. I kind of put that up there. I like that y'all are concerned about what kind of delicacy will eat me. I think
Well, look at us. We like to eat.
exactly. Well, I'll give you an example. My son had a girlfriend not too long ago that grew up in St. Louis, and they grew up in a less than affluent area, and so when they do beef, they do like pot roast and stuff like that, where they put it into a pot and just kill it until it becomes nice and soft and edible and stuff. Well, one time I actually found at a grocery store a top sirloin roast didn't have too much marbling on it. It was really nice. It looked like prime rib and stuff. And so I brought it home and I put garlic on it and I put pepper on it and stuff. And I put it into the oven and I was going to make it medium rare. Now, medium rare is where it's pink in the middle and it's done on the outside. And because she had never experienced that, she thought that I was going to kill them because I was undercooking and the meat. I mean, this was an expensive piece of meat, but it was very nice. And so a lot of us don't know the difference between really nice marbling and something where you cook the hell out of it. So someone like you, the aliens are going to have to cook the hell out of. Me, I'm going to melt like butter. I'm going to taste. I'll be like a good. Have you ever been to the Metropolitan in Seattle?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You get a filet mignon and you can literally cut it with a fork.
Yeah. Oh man.
I think I'm going out to dinner tonight. That's
my God. Yeah, that's a good place to eat. That's why there's no cows near that place for 100 miles.
Exactly.
They have to drive those cows in. That's right.
That's right. And so we would be a delicacy for those guys. But let's get back to that.
Yeah.
Does anybody? Do you believe? I think I'm getting more and more into this camp that they being the government and government agencies, NASA, SETI, all of these different places, they're kind of giving us a clue followed by another clue, followed by the radio waves, followed by a picture of a UFO and stuff. They're setting us up for the fact that they might very well be real, and they're not saying they're not real anymore. Have you noticed that?
I have. And here's the problem that they have. Commerce. The fact that we have private space flight now, commercial space flight.
Oh, yes.
And we have people that are launching their own satellites. We have people that launch their own, that have cell phone technology, plug into other people's cell phones into any satellite dish that they want. These are hackers. These are the super hackers that they have to watch out for. So governments had a plan on leaking out this information. That plan was circumvented by, recent technologies. And I think it is partly an issue that you just can't control that forever. And what are they controlling? Because if the aliens have any way to, understand our culture, they would see the fact that we have a government that tries to control the people, and they would act accordingly, right?
I would think.
They would see that we have a commerce system, and then we have a spiritual system, and then they would see that we have an entertainment system, and they would see that we have plain folk. So they would understand through their anthropological background, because I'm sure we would not be the first that they've ever studied. Probably not.
Probably not.
That
You're right.
they would have a point of reference of saying, okay, well, this culture B responds to this type of thing poorly, so let's not do that. Let's just watch these guys for a while. And we might be interested in their gold because we need it for fuel. Or we need red coral because we need it for fuel. We have no idea.
I've got another theory for you. Is
Yeah.
that, and this is one that Coryelle has talked about, is that we are what's called a seeded planet.
Oh, yeah. I dig that.
That we are, as a civilization, as a species, we are not indigenous to the earth. We were brought here by another civilization as a way of moving their civilization forward. And then because if you look at all of the things that they've talked about that they're now starting to reassess, pyramids as an example, or other huge buildings and creations that could not possibly, that we don't know how they did it then, we can't do it today, or we would be building pyramids, but we can't do it. So go ahead.
I totally buy into that. We're obviously not natural. What other species destroys the planet?
Right.
That we're unique in that. Ants don't destroy the planet. They do some manipulation, but they don't destroy what they set out. And they do use other creatures for, slaves, help build. They use them for food. They farm. Mm-hmm. But they don't overkill, and they don't overuse any more than what they need.
What other species on the planet kills indiscriminately for no reason?
Well, dolphins.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh, I've learned something today.
Yeah, dolphins, and then there's some chimps. I forget which species of chimp. Chimpanzee. It starts with a B, and they're highly sexualized as well. I mean, there's a couple other species, so they're usually on the upper edge of intelligence.
But don't they have a reason?
Oh, if they do, I don't know what it is.
Because I was just thinking to myself, it's like mankind is the only species that, first of all, we end up not liking each other just because of how we look, how we dress, what language we speak, rather than being part of all one species. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we're pretty territorial that way. Still. No, dolphins will rape.
Really? I had no earthly idea.
Yeah, they rape, and I believe orcas do too. Yeah, it's usually the younger males. They've got a lot of, the version of testosterone, and,
younger males get into trouble for a whole bunch of things and a whole bunch of cultures.
We just can't, we can't think with both heads at once. We don't have enough brains for both areas.
That's what we that's what we used to tell our kids. KYPIP.
KY, what's that?
Keep your Peter in your pants.
Right.
We used to say that to the kids as they were growing up all the time when they're going out on a date. KYPIP. Don't forget. And by the way, if you can KYPIP, wear a raincoat, please. So, but that's because we didn't want to create more humans than we could afford at the time.
That's right. That's right.
So what do you think? Do you think that we are just filling time here, or do you think that it's possible that aliens? I know that some of the people that are listening think that aliens are real, or star people, or another civilization, because there have been so many instances of it, but it's a long way to go to get here.
It is a long way to go to get here, and I hope it's worth the trip. And I like the idea that we're seeded. I can totally buy into that, and I hope that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would hate to think that we're not. I'd hate to think that we're not seeded, you know, because if we're not seeded, then it's going to be a long wait before we can pull our heads out of our asses and do something productive. You know, I think for us to take a next step that is productive, that aids, that actually does benefit a lot of people besides us, whoever else is out there besides us, it would take more than us to be able to realize, become fully realized enough to take that step. We don't have the eyes. Our eyes may be able to determine light and be able to see a tree, be able to see a grizzly bear, be able to see, you know, the people around us, but be able to see and understand alien life and adapt to it and approach things in a positive way. I mean, we're still trying to argue about building a wall across Mexico. Like you said, we still dislike people based on the way they look, based on the way they talk, based on, you know, what God they serve. So we've got a long ways to go, and we would need help if we're going to get by it.
We would. Speaking of which, if there are star people, and there are, and realistically, if you are a statistician and you look at the number of planets that are out there, the number of galaxies that are out there, the number of galaxies, and in the universe, provided this is the only universe, which we can't see, but we don't know. The number of potential planets that are out there far exceed anything that would not allow there to be another form of life. Now, does it exactly look like us? Probably not. It can
Let's
go
hope
on.
not.
Yeah, and it's wonderful diversity. But I will tell you this: is if this planet was seeded by another civilization that was done 100,000 years ago or whenever, they would check back on us to see how we're doing.
That's what we would do.
Yeah,
that's what we
to
would do.
make sure that we didn't do anything stupid, like I don't know, start lobbing nuclear weapons at each other.
That's right. Well, I have an aquarium, and I change the water every week, every 10 days. You know, it must be the same thing for them. Maybe they don't do it every week, every 10 days, but every millennium they've got to change the water, right?
I would think. I would certainly think. And the fact of the matter is that since the government is now saying, well, you know, we saw this thing and we're not sure what it was, but it's not an air balloon, and it's fast and stuff. And you were telling me yesterday about a interstellar spaceship that went through
the edges.
Went
the
through
edges of our solar system.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, this thing was massive. I mean, massive. Miles long, miles wide. It was rectangular. So it would defy nature, of any sense of nature that we would understand, that it had to be made by an intelligent species, because it was rectangular, definitely rectangular. And it was so huge, like I said, miles long. And it actually slowed down as it entered the edge of our solar system, and then picked up speed as it passed by us. And they were concerned as it was approaching. They were a bit concerned that it was, you know, going to keep slowing down and keep slowing down. But it did, you know, it sort of paused, kind of like what we do on the freeway when there's a train wreck or when there's a wreck. Like, oh my God, look at that. Well, let's just keep moving. You know, thankfully, you know, whatever that was just kept moving on. Nothing to see there.
Or it was a transport that was picking up or dropping off. Now I know that there are people in our world who do not subscribe to the gospel according to Gene Roddenberry, but I do.
That's right.
Gene Roddenberry was an amazing guy who predicted a bunch of different stuff. As an example, your cell phone is when he in 67, in 66, 65, when he wrote Star Trek and he used the communicator, there was no such thing. There was no such thing as cell phones.
No.
Everything had a cord attached to it. And
right.
and so the cell phone. So what about transporter? What about the ability to transport somebody from here to there?
That's right.
So
I honestly think Star Trek is one of the greatest ideas since the Bible.
well, in the 23rd century, which is when James T. Kirk and those guys were out and about. Oh, very good. I'm glad you got your pipe out.
Okay.
And they didn't have to work anymore because they had the technology to have replicators that made their food for them, and they did all of this, so they didn't have to work anymore, so they could pursue their passion.
Well, the damn socialists, they figured out a way out. The lazy socialists relying on the government. Now all they do is fly in space.
There would be somebody. Somebody would say that exact thing in the 20. They're damn socialists. You gotta work. You gotta work.
I mean, look, that's right. Look how they dress. They can't afford a full uniform. Look at the women, man. Get a full dress. What about the children?
Exactly, but the way that they, so in the 23rd century, we don't have to work anymore. So doggone it, we got to live that long anyway.
That's right.
Just
go ahead.
So you've got this interstellar spaceship that went through the solar system. Bear with me here. Could have slowed down, which it did, so that it could transport people here and transport others back, and kind of in a rotating thing, and they would be able to look like humanoids, but they would have a completely different agenda than what humans do.
I like that.
And so I mean, why not? If you think about it,
unless they're sort of orange.
Well, the orange men, there was one at the top, and they made it all the way to the White House.
That's it. I'm building a wall.
Yeah. Well, so, but I was just, based upon our discussion yesterday, if you're just joining us, we were talking about extraterrestrials and the possibility that they're coming here and have been here and will be here again, because the U.S. government is not saying it's a weather balloon anymore. They're now saying that's real possible. They've had sightings in Phoenix. They've had sightings elsewhere, and people are believing, and they're not saying that even Area 51, which they said was a weather balloon. They're not saying that anymore. They're saying it's, it could be possible.
And here's the other to Coryelle's point about, you guys are talking about souls yesterday.
Yes.
And here's something to that point, because it is entirely possible. I mean, you've heard of the concept of the original soul, right?
Remind me.
There's a concept out there that there's one original soul, and it broke off into however many different life forms there are that achieve a soul. And our definition of life forms that achieve a soul has been expanding since our knowledge of life has expanded.
Correct.
And Coryelle even mentioned that plants have souls.
Correct.
Now, I can buy into that because I've always felt the vibrations of trees.
Correct.
And as you know, my people feel that trees are a place for our ancestors.
Correct.
So it makes sense that trees have souls. Yeah. Now, that makes it also possible that since souls travel to different creatures on this planet, that our souls travel to different planets.
Correct.
Now, that makes it possible that when we dream, our souls are traveling to different existences. Now, you mentioned yesterday,
correct,
that you have experienced underwater, flying, different experiences that would make you an alien.
Dreaming about being underwater and being able to breathe underwater and seeing all the fauna and everything there, it is a lot of it is really a cool dream. Or flying. I've dreamed that I could just pick up and fly, and that is a cool dream. I've had a bunch of those types of things, and it's true that you could be. All right, you ready? I'm going to give you the whole thing. This is everything in a nutshell. You ready?
Just about. Now I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. What happens is this is a theory that some people will support, and that is that we came from one creator, we came from the original source, and we have been broken into our individual souls so that we can have individual experiences based upon where we are and what we are doing. Sometimes we're on the other side in heaven and we're working as far as being a guide, or they're working and doing and, oh, Paulette, you're too funny. And they're working as a guide, they're working with animals, they're working with training people, they're working with DNA and developing different planets and different lifestyles and different things that go on the planets and so forth, and they're fully creating in that. And some of them come to have a physical existence, and the reason that they come to have a physical existence is because there are things that they need a body to do that they can't do without a body. I'm going to give you an example. Pumpkin pie.
Ooh, I like this example already. Does it have whipped cream?
Yes. Well, they're
better.
So I'll tell you, there are three souls that are on the other side. Okay.
Okay. Do they get
and
pie?
They're standing there talking, and they're talking about their experiences with food. And two of them say, "Oh, I love Thanksgiving because I love pumpkin pie." And the guys say, "Oh, with the whipped cream and with the cinnamon and how it tastes and the crust or the crispy crust and all of that."
Yeah.
And the third guy says, "I have no earthly idea what you're talking about."
That poor bastard.
Never had exactly. I've never had pumpkin pie. I've never experienced that. So therefore, he could not experience it or taste it on the other side because he had no earthly idea what it tasted like.
God damn.
Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So no, well, he's on the other side. So he says he's a soul, and he says, "All right, well, I want to experience pumpkin pie." So then he has an incarnation on the earth in a place that they have Thanksgiving and they have pumpkin pie. So then he can experience pumpkin pie. So when he goes back to the other side and is standing with his two buddies, and the three of them can talk about pumpkin pie as being such a great thing, he will have experienced it.
Nice.
Rather than conjecture. Because you can say, what does whipped cream taste like?
That would be a difficult one to explain.
Yeah, it would be if you couldn't figure out what whipped cream tastes like, what cinnamon tastes like, what the crust with you have to experience. There's certain things that you just have to experience.
Yeah, I get that.
And as an example, Neil Donald Walsh. Are you familiar with who he is?
Who?
Neil Donald Walsh.
No.
He wrote a book one time, and it was a children's book, and it was and the premise of the book was this, and that is that there was a soul in heaven, and he wanted to experience forgiveness, but he had nothing to forgive, because in heaven there is just total love and acceptance, and there's nothing to forgive. And he wanted to come down here and experience forgiveness. And so he asked his group that he was around, "Can you help me understand and experience forgiveness?" Nobody would do it. And until finally one soul stepped forward and said, "All right, I'll do it because I love you." and I will do it, and it will be so horrific for you that you will understand. You'll understand forgiveness. Now, I want you to keep in mind that I love you, and that's why I'm willing to do this for you, so that you can experience forgiveness. I
Sounds
don't want to
ominous.
do that, but I'll do it for you.
Sounds
And
ominous.
yeah, well, and so the soul came down, and the other soul came down and did something horrible to him because he had asked for him to do that, and that was part of his education, that he wanted to experience that. Now, do you buy any of this? Just thought I'd ask. Paula, what do you think? Paulette, do you buy any of this?
Well, I buy into it, and I will submit as evidence that perhaps dreams are part of our travels, because in our dreams we can't see ourselves.
Good point.
So we don't know what we look like in our dreams.
By the way, I wanted to ask you, have you ever had a dream when you were falling?
Oh, sure.
Have you ever hit the ground?
No.
Have you ever died while
No.
and you know why that is?
Because I'm still alive.
because your body may, because when you take that dive and you're falling, you may say, "Ow, I'm about to. This is going to hurt like hell when I get to the bottom of this," but you never get to the bottom of it, because even if your body hits it, you're already gone. You've left your body, and so you don't feel that pain, nor do you feel like that you are dead, or that there's a time when you're not there. You're just continue to be there.
That's right.
So
Yeah,
and
dreams are bizarre stuff, and without them, we can't really survive. That's the other amazing thing. You know, they've that's one of the great tortures. You know, that they'll keep people from dreaming for whatever, I forget how many days from sleep, and they'll keep them from REM sleep, and they will go crazy and they will die.
you will.
Yeah.
It's a complicated issue that we have, and of course, we started talking about aliens, and now we're talking about all of life. But
It's connected.
Yeah, I agree.
think it's connected. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's as apparent. Like I mentioned, I think aliens have always been with us, even though we scoff at the idea, and we scoff at the idea that they don't exist. It's a fact that we all think about it, and we probably, like we have probably even atheists, you know, have some concept of God or some creator. We all have that same faith that there's other souls in this universe.
Now, I'll even go one step farther. Are you ready for this? Because
I'm ready.
I've talked to people about this, and I've said, by the way, you are not human.
People have told me that.
I mean, not you personally, but us as souls. Put your mask back on. Us as souls are not human, because human is a species, and we've been around forever. Our soul is everlasting. Humans are like, the first car I had was a 1967 Fury 3 Plymouth.
Oh, I had one of those.
Did you have one of those?
I had one of those.
With a 383 in underneath the hood. That sucker could go. We cruised at 90 miles an hour.
That thing sounded awesome.
Yes.
I love that car.
But that was only a car. Human beings are only a vehicle. A vehicle for us to use, to get around in, and to have these earthly experiences. And so we can, since you've been around longer than 100 years or 100 million years, the earth has been around for 4.5 billion years, the universe 16 billion years. You've had different incarnations doing different things in different places. So your soul is not bound to any particular any particular DNA or your physical ability or your physicalness as being a human, because when humans cease to exist, your soul will still be here.
The universe has proved over and over again, energy is consistent. It never ends. It keeps changing and processing itself into something different.
Exactly. And John Edwards says that all the time, is that your body is like your car. When you're done with your car, you don't miss it. You don't care about it. I have no idea what that Plymouth Fury 3 is today. It's probably a dishwasher or something.
Well, I just know my lease company is going to be pissed when I return this one.
And Paulette, let's see, totally off the mark here. I've always thought God created us. Why would he stop right there with us? Surely there are more creations out there. Of course there are.
That's right. You're on spot, Paulette. That's absolutely. I agree with that completely. Why would he? I think you're right. Made man in his image.
Yes.
Please. Which part of him is which part of him do we look like?
I don't.
He could do better. I mean, come on. You could have. We've seen. What's that species? The blubberfish.
Again, you got. Again,
there's a couple out there. I look at. Well, thank God we don't look like that.
Exactly.
He could have done worse.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the whole. Well, I'll give you another example of something I firmly believe in, and that is if you on Mondays, I don't know if you've listened to it. If she says she's not touching that one.
Which one is she touching?
She's not touching the part that God made, that God made of you. But she's not touching that part. But on Mondays we do Life Between Lives, and Neil Michael Newton, who was a hypnotherapist, and he developed a series where you could go to Life Between Lives, and he was talking about a soul that was on the other side that was working with a particular planet, and this particular planet had a vegetative life form that had nothing that ate it.
Whoa.
So it took over the planet.
Whoa.
So on the other side, and think about this, I think this happens here all the time. On the other side, they were thinking, no, what do we do about that? That life form or that plant is taken completely over the planet, and nothing else can survive there because it has taken over all the vegetation and everything. And they said, well, then what we need to do is create an animal that eats that vegetation. So they did it from the DNA form on up, because that's how everything is done, is from DNA on up, and they created this animal that ate this particular plant.
Sounds like a Jurassic Park plot.
Exactly. Well, think about it. That's how it has to happen.
Yeah.
And like, think about all of the different animals and things that have been here and gone, and how some new ones crop up because that's what's needed.
See, that's what's scary about humans and our perception. And although I don't fully disagree with this concept,
you can't.
But we're trying to fix a problem that may not exist.
Explain.
Well, a plant with consciousness that doesn't have a predator, that's growing on a planet and so I assume that it's consuming the planet.
It's overtaking it so that nothing else can grow.
Well, at what point does it destroy the planet?
It doesn't. You mean destroy the planet as in what part of the planet?
Well, that's my point. I mean, just because I don't understand the full depth of this story here, but let's say that the original soul is being attended to here, and all these individual plants that have got an opportunity to grow on this planet, and they combine themselves onto the planet, and that original soul then is connected,
right,
and becomes an entity, where this planet now is one complete entity.
So what you're saying is that the planet,
we're killing that planet if we introduce a predator to keep the plants from becoming one entity, because we've interfered with the natural process. That's a possibility.
No, but that's the thing, is they're creating the natural process
by introducing a predator.
Yeah. Who creates Mother Nature?
Mother Nature.
Who's Mother Nature?
It's not us. Not us. Not them.
No, but who is the mother? Because you have to look at it one of two ways.
It's not the butter lady.
if Mother
Don't
Nature,
try to fool Mother Nature. We learned that for the commercials in the 70s.
Oh yeah, but if Mother Nature is a random act of nothing, meaning that it's not being controlled or done by any entity at all, then it's just a random. It's just random. Then how does it work? Because everything that is in our world, in all worlds, everywhere is energy, right?
Yeah.
So you're not buying any of this.
No, I'm not buying it because if a plant gets to a point where it covers the full planet,
right?
That's a connectivity. That's not a death of something. That's a full connectivity.
Well, but it's the death of the animals that don't eat the plant.
Possibly, but it also might be the original soul connecting itself. Maybe this is the process that Mother Nature intended.
Then we go back to who's Mother Nature?
We're not.
No, we're not.
Mother Nature is the being that processed the earth to make the waves lap up the microbial cells onto the rocks and develop eyes.
So is that a random act?
Or I don't think so.
Or is that an act through intelligence?
I think it's always an act through intelligence.
If it's an act, yeah, I know. We're getting into some weird. I know. But if you think about Mother Nature, and you think about the continuing evolution of the planet, is that a random act, or is there intelligence behind that act? If there's intelligence behind that act, then it comes from the source, the universe, from God as part, and that's who Mother Nature is. Unless it is just a completely random thing.
My thought on that would be, since it's a plant, and it has consciousness.
Would you get rid of the plant thing?
I can't let it go. Since it's a plant and it's rooted, literally rooted in the earth.
Right.
And it doesn't have weaponry.
Right.
And it's somewhat docile, I imagine. And its simply source of food is whatever water and light. So its natural process is photosynthesis and absorption of nutrients from the earth, rather than going out and killing purposefully for its existence or for its greed.
Oh, but it does.
It does. Okay, well that changes everything. Fuck it, man. Take a flame torch, the whole thing.
The reason, and that probably was
Fertilize the whole ground.
I had no idea that it probably was a really bad example, but
But waiting for you to say, God.
well, it depends on, and Paulette, I will tell you that I believe in God. I believe in the universe. I believe in, it just depends upon, in my, and I'll just lay this out there, in my reference, God is too confining. Our creator is more than what we would talk about a guy sitting on a throne someplace. It is more involved. It is bigger. So when I say the source, God controls everything. There is no place where God isn't. So if there is no place that God isn't, then God is everywhere.
I like that.
And if God is everywhere, then he is more than, and Paulie agrees with me, as do I. So, so that's good. I've enjoyed this discussion.
I have too. It makes me think.
Well, and I have no earthly idea whether anything that we've talked about, whether it's aliens or star people or life after death or reincarnation, I have no idea whether I can't prove any of it. But
we have no proof. We have no proof of anything. All we have is, our imagination. And even when we do make contact, we'll have to rely on these creatures or whatever they are to fill us with information. And then we're taking a leap of faith that whatever they tell us has some grain of truth to it. And it would take us generations to really understand what the hell they're trying to tell us and trust and verify what it is they're trying to tell us.
What if they get off of the their spaceship and they look exactly like us?
Run like hell. We did wrong. Hope they didn't bring a book with them
that says "To serve man."
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. But Eric Hall, it's been a pleasure having you again, and we're doing this every week. It's fun to play with, because we honestly, folks, we have no earthly idea, and it's not like I've written a book about it, or that Eric could write a book about it. I can't, but you have to believe. You have to believe in something, and it's great food for thought. Thank you, Paulette.
Thank you. Literally, because we talked about food, how we would taste, how it would be served, and
that's right. I would make a really good marbled little piece of meat. That's all I know.
Yeah, I don't know if they'd want to serve. They'd serve me on a cracker, I guess. Try to think.
It'd have to be pretty big ass cracker, don't you?
I'd want a wheat thin. I'd like to be with wheat thins. Yep, wheat thins.
Very good. So, Eric, would you like to tell our audience, or just give them a final word for today's episode?
Always look up,
because you never know what's going to be falling down.
That's right. Always look up.
Okay, what does that mean?
Shake my head. Shaking my head.
Oh, good. I appreciate that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I know Eric had his shot yesterday. I had mine over the weekend, and we're both a little wrung out from that little experience. But it's important and it's necessary. So I hope everybody does it.
It is, yeah. Go out and get your shots. Be a person of the world. It only hurts for a little bit. You'll get over it. It'll save many people. Care for the ones you love.
And love the ones you care.
Exactly.
That's a song. There you go. There's some lyrics. Speaking of which, and I'll say this right in front of God and everybody, there's a guy that I interviewed last week that he writes music, can't write lyrics to save his life. So I encourage you to write lyrics, and I'll send them to him, and you can create something wonderful.
We'll see what I can do.
Go there.
I suck at that. Okay.
Oh, you suck at lyrics?
Yeah. Oh, I can't write a lyric down. No,
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we will see you next Wednesday at noon.
I have jury duty next week.
Oh, that's right. Well, you're going to get out of it. You're going to get out of it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna wear a T-Rex costume and tell him I'm fierce about justice and try to get on the jury.
No, show the mask again for somebody that didn't see it.
Okay.
Just wear
this.
Yeah,
maybe I'll wear this.
There you go. That's that you can. Oh, that's too funny. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being part of the show today. And you
Thanks,
can
folks.
always go to Mind and Penance Report to replay this and stuff. So go do that. And I appreciate having Eric here. You're just fun. You're a funny guy.
So are you, Kevin. I had a great time. Looking forward to coming back and talking more.
Next time, you're either going to be on jury duty or you'll be here, one or the other.
That's right.
You could actually do it from your phone in the jury room.
You know, we could just play the trial live. I'm sure they won't mind.
not a bit. Well, then we'll have to play it at your trial because that will be coming up.
See, there's a connection there.
Exactly. You take care of yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Be kind to one another and take care of each other. And we'll see you next time on My Independence Report.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we've got. See you next time on My Independence Report.